Welcome to this video, and it's going to be a quick hour challenge. I've got 3 fellas on a group day who've challenged me to fish against them for an hour. So come to the end of the day now, they've gone through all the methods, all the tactics, they've been working on what they've been doing. So what you're going to do, I'm going to run you through, they've already started before me, so I'm just going to run you through my rig, where I'm going to fish, and then we'll get some fishing and hopefully smash them up. But got my pole pox, I'm going to fish in our pellets using 6mm. With either an 8 or 6 on the up, and I've got the ever faithful 13 holler down to 019 mainline. I've got a carp pellet on there with a back shot down to just a little strung bulk, and then an 015 hook length which is 4 inches KKM size 16. So would help if I had my pole for the start. So got my pole. So what I've looked at done is I've got some maggots if I want to fish shallow, but ideally looking for the last hour of the match, this is the sort of thing. So it's like the last hour of the match, you want to be fishing in the edges or on the short pole. Now I've set up a line on just on my top kit on 6mm, where I'm just going to throw 4 or 5. But one of the best lines on this lake is down to the left hand pellet. So what I've done there is I've just kindled a few pellets in. Say it's just coming onto the match now, I'm going to come onto it now. What you look to do with the pole pot is I don't really want to drip feed in. I just want to clump my bait in. So what I like to do is take the lid off, drop the pellets in there, make sure I dunk them so they're nice and wet. Matt's got one on there. Make sure they're nice and wet, and then get them in your peg quickly. So where I've chose to fish today is right next to this pallet. Where your keep nets go, so it's nice and clean. What you want to do is you want to feed your bait and lay your rig in so everything's nice and tight and everything can settle up. Really put the pressure on me today, these coaching lot. We got their excuses in early saying I was on the end peg, but put them on the best pegs. Ideally on this, might straight away then. Can you put a shot on that? Ideally on this pallet, you can get some aggressive bites and some big fish. Like hopefully we can catch some, but I'm just gonna refeed again just to set that little trap. What I'm gonna do as well, shut that, plop some pellets in there for me extra line if I need to rest it or any big carp comes short. What you want to do is feed your bait, make sure your bait's in your peg first, make sure your pellets sink, that's why you dunk them with the water. Lower your float to the water. Have a little look round, he's still playing that carp, so we're alright. There we go, sitting a bit better now. I think a shot pinged off before. But I just thought it'd be a good idea just to film the hour really, how I go about, say, the last hour of the match. Like I say, on this venue it's quite unique. The edges are really deep and the carp are really big, so there's a certain way you have to fish for these fish. You have to fish strong gear, but balanced. Also, they love eating hard pellets, and a fantastic way of catching them. Now, I have got a 15 holler there with not a kit on, just in case we start catching really well, or there's a lot of fish or big fish coming to this margin, because 13 is an nice all-round elastic, but say if we get to 20 minutes to go and these big fish do rock up, then we can put the 15 holler on and make the most of when they're there feeding. Coming on to feeding, it can be very simple. I don't like to throw my bait when I'm fishing down the edge for these big carp. Now, I do if I'm fishing on the top kit line because I feel I can control how much I'm throwing, but when I'm fishing it down the edge, say if I was to fish tight into the bank, I feel like the vegetation could cling onto your bait and cause the fish to come up to half depth to eat the bait out of the grass. So ideally it's best just to feed with a kinder pot regular. Like I'm already thinking now I need to feed again in a second, but feed with a kinder pot regular and just keep attracting these fish into your peg. They naturally coming to the edge later on in the match. This is where they want to feed, this is where the bait goes in after the match. It's a well-known fact that down the edge fishing, the fish love to come and feed. Now, to me, I've not had a sign now on this feed, so what I'm going to do is shoot back and feed again. So what I'm going to do is put 15-20 pellets in my pot. Nice and steady. Now, I get to there, dump the pot so it gets the water covered on them. Get to my mark, feed my bait, lift my rig straight over the top of that bait, let it settle up, and then lower it down. Now I know I'm on the right line because the two lads up the top have caught two on the pallet later, straight away, so we're on the right line. An indication then straight away. So see, if you were lazy or didn't refeed, you wouldn't have got that indication and maybe brought an extra fish into the peg. Hopefully that'll just fly under in a minute, but ideally in a match situation you'd have fed this from the middle of the match, 2 hours in, ready for your last 90 minutes to an hour. But I've just dropped on this, so it might take a little bit of time to get them coming. When they come, you can really catch well. Sign there. Now I've just had a sign, and what I want to speak about with that sign is just don't be too hesitant to refeed again soon, because that fish is in the peg. It could have cleared all my bait out and I'm fishing there with no feed, and feed is the main attraction to the fish. They don't even come in your peg when they're not feed, if there's no feed there. So don't give it too long, just make sure you read your bristle, see what's going on. Another sign then. Just trying to mimic a live match really. I would go about the last hour now. Hopefully we can get some bites. I'm not too negative at the moment. I'm not trying another line. I'm just going to stay on this line. This is, that was a carp like that. So what I'm going to do, chuck a few pellets on the top kit line and restart the process again. What I might have to do is put an 8mm on just as a big standout up bait, so when these carp come into the peg, just see that big 8mm and they suck it in quicker than the 6mm. Make sure you're over your feed, don't let your float guide away. Using that back shot to control your rig. Now the tow isn't that bad on this lake today because one of the pushers is off, but when the pusher's off then back shot are really important to keep that rig stable. What you want to look for is a nice sharp positive indication on your float. That means the carp just come in, sucked your pellet in, hopefully you hook it. But it can be an absolute nightmare on this lake. Big fish, they're angry fish because there's so much oxygen in the water, they just fight so hard. Ooh. Bit erratic with the strike there, but just drop in quickly. Might take a few feeds to settle them down. Once you get settled down, then I think we'll be laughing then. There we are. See, that wasn't too long before you catch one then. Now just keep it nice and low. When you got your fish, you want to play on the top kit line. I think it's an F1. Big F1 that is. This could be why I've got a few funny indications. Can't get my hammer on this one. Big F1. So it just shows you can catch all sorts of fish on this method. And what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to slip an 8mm on. Now I've got a nice big Fin Perfect 8mm, which is a Coppins brand, just a standout hook bait. Still going to feed the same again. Always keeping that top kit line fed, so you're just dropping on there, but good start, an F1 there. There were signs of fish, so hopefully start getting some regular bites now. Fantastic way of fishing on this pallet. Really exciting, some aggressive bites. You catch some big fish on this lake. It's really weird, this lake has got a massive head of F1s and they're huge, as you've just seen, but it's really known as a carp lake straight, and it's got a fantastic stock of hide, F1s, a lot of crucian carp, but it is well known for its big carp. They average between 4 to 8 pound, but there's a lot of fish 8 pound plus. I think the biggest fish in here that's been weighed is 17 pound, which is a fantastic fish considering. And they pull so hard, you all think they're like 20-30 pounds, some of them. But that F1 was well behaved then, so hopefully get a few more. One thing I want to say is it's important when you're fishing to these pallets, you want to fish and not be striking at the wrong bites. Like, you might get a lot of indications with fishing your peg. You want to strike at them sharp indications. Basically it's like pulling, someone's pulling your float under, because then you know the fish has sucked it in, nice big positive bite, dislodge your shot, and you know you're all good and it's in the mouth. When you get them indications and movements on your float, that could be 1 or 2 fish, could be some smaller fish in your peg. So just don't be too hasty just to striking at them. Just wait for it to sharp, positive dink, and then you make sure you can hook every fish. And it also makes you're not wasting time out the water. Just to be nice and efficient, just sit there dead patient, knowing what you're doing is right, and when a fish comes into your peg and wants to feed, hopefully you can catch it. So now I've got the 8mm on now, and I haven't really had any indications or bites. Are just sitting there nice and positive. That could be a good thing. Could be that there's a bigger fish there. There's no small fish pecking at my bait. Missed a few bites with the 6mm, so that could have been F1s or the odd crucian carp in the edge, but now with an 8mm, you're just sitting there nice and patiently, and hopefully it just flies under. Don't forget, I can always drop on that top kit line if I need to. It's a great area of the peg where you can catch some fish late on. Now, because I'm treating this as a match situation, I'm thinking I need to refeed And also maybe change my hook bait back to a 6mm. Now this is because I haven't had any indications or bites on this. Now that could be a good thing that I'm not getting any bites, but I personally feel it's much easier to work with indications and signs than it is with just a static bait and not any and nothing to work off. So what I'm thinking is maybe just give the 8mm one more try with the feed, and then if that doesn't produce any bites, oh, there's me now, caught that one on, another solid fly under. Now you may think the strike's a bit aggressive, but I do like to set the hook. And I feel when I've set the hook and strike quite hard, you've got a lot of control over the fish then, because your pole is above them. If you just give it a little lift, it gives the fish chance to bolt, and if your pole's low to the water, you've got no give, but if your pole's up in the air and it starts to go, you've got probably 4, 5, 6 foot of pole in the air, allowing you to control that fish a lot better. See there, me thinking last chuck, maybe being a bit impatient. Now I've missed a bite. I just had a liner when I've just fed some bait there now. So maybe I just need to be a bit more patient and try and catch one of these carp. But I will change back to a 6mm if I don't get a bite on this chuck, just so I can catch some in. Now, in a match situation with the edge, you're either looking to catch 20 pound on a really hard day to push your weight up, or on a really good day you can catch 60, 70, 80 pound on them real flying days. Just drag that in there. Now, it's quite hard to tell whether you're doing the right thing sitting there or what weight you're looking for to need. Like when the fish are really feeding aggressive in the edge and they're coming in and they're down the edge eating, then that's when you can do the weights. But on this lake, 60 to 70 pounds is literally just 10 fish. Now that may seem a lot, but in an hour's fishing, if they turn up on this pallet, you can literally do that with ease. I say today we're probably looking at 20 to 30 pounds as a good weight. Lake's fish, not fish brilliant, but it's not fish terrible. There's been enough fish to be caught. And I think 20 to 30 pounds in an hour is a good target, really. If I feel like 40 pounds I'd be pushing it, considering we're probably like 10-15 minutes in now. I've got one F1 and a few signs of fish, but not hectic. Don't be wrong, I could have 3 fishing now for 25 pounds, then all of a sudden we're back up there, but that's a big gamble. What I'm trying to get is 20 to 30 pounds. So say I've caught a 2.5 pound F1, needs 17 pound for 20 pound now. So it's only 3 or 4 carp, which is not a lot to do. Quite easily achieve that, but I'm going to change back to a 6mm, definitely, just so I can try and put some in the net, even if there's a few F1s down there. But remember, just keep feeding that top get line all the time, and you have a drop on that in a bit. Now I've just switched back to a 6mm there just to see if I can get any indications or bites and see if I can hook any fish. If we end up hooking a few more fish, then it's all about putting the weight in the net. Maybe that there's no carp coming in at this moment in time where the 8mm not right, or maybe it's too big for the fish that are in the peg. It's just about being nice and positive, nice and patient, knowing that when you get a bite you're going to land it. You've got the gear on to land it, and you're doing the best thing you can to get a bite. Now don't get me wrong, I can catch 3 or 4 carp in quick succession if they turn up, but that's why you just got not to worry, just be nice and patient. It's noticeable when you fish these 6mm pellets and there's a few F1s in your peg on this venue, you do get a few more indications than when a carp are there. You seem to find that when you fish for carp on this venue, it's when they're in your peg, they just give you a positive bite. I don't ever think you get stupid indications or anything. I just think it sits there and then flies under 100 miles an hour and you either miss it or you hook it. I don't think they give you that much of an indication, but when there's a few F1s in your peg that are a bit crafty and a bit reluctant to pick up a 6mm, probably picking up one at a time, not hoovering up like a carp, because they feed different, essentially, so you just got to be mindful of that. It's all about understanding your venue. I fished a lot of matches here and I know that's the way I've always thought it is, to be honest. You get a few more indications and a few more bites, and when there's some carp in your peg it just flies under. That's why it's nice to be nice and patient. Don't strike at the wrong bites. Just make sure your bite is nice and aggressive, the ones you strike at. Now, probably a little update, I'm probably 3rd or 4th at the minute. I'm probably getting beat if I'm using the lads I'm fishing with as a guide in a match, because I've got 2 to my right, he's got 1 in the middle which is a big one, and he's got 1 on the end which is the big one, so my 1 F1's not looking that good at the minute. But like I said, it's just about being patient. If it's in a match situation now and you had a good start to the match, a good middle, and you're just waiting for the end, or you know when it's way it's fishing, if you need £40 last hour, you know you need that. If you need £20, you know you need £20. Now, what is this? I don't think it's a big fish, I think it's small. See that top kit line? What the heck this is? I reckon it's a foul up F1. This. Now, see what I mean? There could be in the peg and giving you all sorts of problems, and you think, oh, missing bites. Well, that's what you can be. Your issue is. Now, one thing I found with this venue, just because you foul hooked, it doesn't mean you've fed too much. A lot of venues you go to, that'll be the case, but just literally repeat the process. 20 so 6mm in the pot, and we'll go again. Hopefully catch some carp. but it's a nice pound. So now we're looking at 16.5 pounds. As your rig's trimming up, just have a little look around, see what's going on. It's all about just understanding what's going on in your peg. Now, no point worrying about the guy next to you because you can't control that. The only thing you can control is your peg. So ideally you want to just focus on your own peg, and that's how you get the most out of it. Don't worry about what he's doing next door. Yeah, of course, if he drops in the edge and catches 2 in 2 chucks, and that forces you to have a look then, but that's just the nature of match fishing. You want to go where the fish are, but don't be too inclined about what's going on. If he's missing loads of bites and you're not getting any bites, or just literally be focused on what you're doing, and then you can get the best results you can. Then got a duck trying to eat and float here. Now, because I've fished 2 lines, I've got an option of feeding this line, letting the fish regather while I fish my top kit. Now, this is the beauty of when you're fishing and trying to catch. This is not ideal when you're trying to catch, say, 40 plus in the last hour, because you really want to be on one line, concentrating on them in areas. But when you're on like 20 to 30 pound, you need to skip about your peg and nick an odd fish here, there. When it's a bit harder days, when there's like an odd fish coming, you're not getting many bites, you need to rest an area to draw a fish in, and this is the idea. So what I'll be looking to do now is just feed this with the kinder pot, give it 10 minutes on my short line, and then drop back on this and see what happens. Now, there's not much happening on the lake. It's quite difficult. It has been all day, so you got to use that into your advantage. Some days you will get days where you catch nothing and then they just feed. Then some days you will get it where it's a lot harder and you need to get the most out of your peg, and you will foul hook a few more. But that's just because the fish are unsettled and not feeding properly, whether it's due to weather, conditions, amount of people on your lake. I just generally think there's a lot of F1s there at the minute. But not a thing to worry about, just sit there and, like I say, try and strike at the right bites, and hopefully we'll get that run of fish we need. But I am tempted just to slip onto the short line and just feed this up, just to get a fish back there, because we haven't had a carp on this. We haven't even hooked a carp. We've hooked foul hooked F1 and then F1 in the mouth. I think if I refeed this now, drop on this short line, see what I can catch there, and then give this a little rest again, try and draw them back in, and that'll be the best way. So all I'm going to do is just film the pad pot up, make sure you don't bounce any out, spreading your bait all over the shop. What I'm going to do is just literally kinder that in, and then just check my up bait's alright. I'm going to lay it out and fishing straight away. Now I'm only going to feed 4 or 5 pellets on this line. Now, just because I dropped in this line, it gives it a chance to rest the other line, so any fish can regather onto that line. Giving him confidence. With the wind, just ideal now. Just see your float doesn't move, just drop your back shot into the water so it's all stable. Got a 4x16 carp pellet on, so it's nice and stable, the wire stem and the thick top. There you go. I don't know what this is. Feels like an F1. Keep your pole nice and low. Whoop. Thought I was going to have to follow him out then. Fish in here can be really angry. It might be a carp, but felt like an F1. It could be a big carp, just rose to the top as I hooked it. I think it's going to be an F1. Like I say, they are big in this pool. The F1s, there's a massive head of them, but you never normally seem to get them. I know we're not in match conditions really today, but in the summer they seem to disappear in the match. It's a bit weird. Oh no, it's carp, which is a good sign. So a little change there has brought a £4 fish to the net, which is a good sign. So now we're only looking for £15, eh? That's what we're looking for. But be the beauty of chopping and changing. You don't need to chopping and changing. You don't need to really get too worried. Do is just chuck 4 pellets into ice. Make sure my float's nice and stable. It's a really effective line here at Weston, this top kit line. It can be devastating on the clay pit, and canal, weir, belvedere. And I just think it's because of the depth of the water you've got. You've got probably 4 foot everywhere when you fish it. And there's just fish seem happy just to sit there in front of your nets. Probably looking for anything to dripping in from your match or anything you spilled, and they just come to this area. They would naturally want to come into the edge. So, oh, that one pulled the elastic out, that one. So the best thing to do is when you hook one, just throw 4 or 5 in your top kit. This has got to be a carp. See how aggressive he can be. Now, if I had like a 15 hollow on, I'm probably in a lot more control of the fish, but because I'm fishing so close, I want the fish to come out my peg quickly. I don't want it upsetting any other fish. I've got 0.15 hook length on, which is nice and reliable. But just want to play these fish nice and slow, keep your top kit down. Whoa, big fish that is. So one change, it could have been from, we've gone from like £3 in the net to possibly 16, 17 pound in the net off just a short amount of time, next to nothing. So just mindful when you're fishing your matches not to give up and get disheartened, and be nice and patient. Like this is the big fish, don't rush this now. This is important fish to catch late on in the match. If you lose this, you're 15 or 10 pound behind. I think it's a big fish. Just keep everything low. It's under the top kit, so it's nice and under control. Just make sure it'll come up in time. Now, There's a big fish that good 8-9 pounds, so solid in the top lip. So all of a sudden we've gone from next to nothing to 2 fish, which is massive in the space of no time. So, and also you've rested a line which you can drop back on and be the same fish. So I'm just going to lower that back out again, make sure your elastic's tight. Because you're fed, so I'm going to feed a little bit more there. Make sure that falls in nice. So aggressive the bites when they eat these hard pellets, they just love eating them. That fish then is like this famous size really for Stretton Pool. Angry fish, lovely commons. There's some fantastic fishing to be had. So now we're probably 20 odd minutes in, half an hour in. I'm not too sure to be fair, I've got my phone as me filming so I haven't got the time, but I'm going to be away in the match now, and we were looking for 20 to 30 pound and we're only one fish off our 20 pound target, so it's a good sign really. Don't be wrong, if a few more bigger fish come into the peg or fish like that size we just had, we have 3 or 4 of them and we're talking 30-40 pound, but you just can't take that gamble if you're not unsure whether they're going to feed or not. A few bites there now, just plop some pellets in. Crazy really, I thought the top kit line would just be a bit of a backup, not in the minute, it's probably the best line where the carp are coming to feed, whether it's just I've got lucky and there's more carp to be caught on the pallets a bit later on, or I'm just haven't caught them on the pallets yet, I don't know, but at the minute this top kit line's produced, say, I don't know, say 13 pounds, something like that, which is ideal, considering we just dropped on it as a little backup line while we just tried to draw some fish into the edge. So give it a little bit of time to fish. You don't want to be rushing around your peg when trying to catch a fish when the fish are that size. I've had 2 fish there, probably average 7 pound. One was about 8-9, the other one was about 4 or 5, so when you put them together you've caught like 14 pound. That's not ideal. A gudgeon. Put him in the net, but it makes you wonder how gudgeon actually eat a pellet that big. But because we caught that, I'm just going to pop some pellets in again. Make 2 groups of bait. But like I was saying, we've caught 2 fish there for say 13-14 pound in next to no time on a top kit, so we haven't had to ship back. We're throwing a bait in, and it's just right to just give it a little bit more time in this area. Be a bit patient, gives it a little bit longer to my pallet. Any fish that wants to come in, comes in. It is a really fun way of fishing though, catching these big carp on like such short amounts of pole, just to top it out. You can see why they do some damage on this lake late on some big fish. But that gudgeon wasn't a good sign. Thinking now, I just want to be a little bit more patient with this line, just in case we get another bite on it, because it seems to be with carp. Seems to be a few carp on this line, but got to be mindful. Don't want to run out of time to give my pallet a chance. There could be some fish sitting on the pallet, and we might miss out on these fish just by sitting on this line, just because we caught some, and vice versa. We might catch some more on this top kit line if we give it a little rest to give it a chance to build up again. It doesn't help when you're lifting fish through and netting them through where you're playing, where you're going to be feeding. So might be just worth just leaving it alone and letting them chance. Now we're not looking for like 10 carp to be there, we're only looking for 1 or 2. So that just little rest can give it a good amount of time, just so they can arrive basically. Mooch around the peg, pick some pellets up, happy as Larry, then come back round and hopefully one of them's your up bait when you get dropping on it. But you've got to be mindful not to waste too much time. The key to this is just looking and reading your float. Now the gudgeon obviously isn't a great sign. You don't really want to catch them, but I haven't had really any indications or movements on the float to say there's a carp in there. To be fair, I didn't when I caught them fish, but that's what it's like. When there's fish there, you don't get any signs, you just get a sharp ding. When there's signs, see, that's a little indication there now. It means there's either fish that ideally can't eat your up bait, say like, not can't, but struggle, say like F1 struggling to eat 6 mils. They will eat them, but they're much more reluctant to eat a 6 mil over a 4 and stuff like that, or some small fish, silverfish. Never really a carp that give you that sort of bites. I think they just come in and hoover your bait up and leave. But give it a couple of minutes on this, and then I'm just going to drop back on that pallet, because I think I need to put some fish in that, because I've got say 16-17 pound at the minute, which is not bad, but I've only caught 2 carp and 2 F1s, so 4 fish, 4 pound average is not bad at all really. You catch 3 or 4 more on that pallet, then we've got a target easily, probably over. But we don't want to be wasting time on areas of the peg which have faded, and this is the sort of thing you got to look for in your match. Now a lot of people think, oh, I've just caught 2 carp and then they must be all on my top kit. Well, that's not the case. Them 2 carp have been there from the start. Remember, we've fed it. They've probably been lurking around, they've dropped in, we've caught them, all his mates are scattered back out the peg, and then now you've got to redraw them fish back in. And if your up bait's there and they're a bit reluctant to come back in, with maybe a rig in the water, or there's just not enough of them to come back in, then what you want to do is you want to move lines. So it gives 30 seconds or so. Just give it a little feed before I leave, just in case there's one about. But I generally think it's gone, that line now. I'll be very shocked, and I'd be very happy, to be fair, if I nicked the fish from this line now, because I feel like it's just passed. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feed my kinder pot again and start again on the pallet. Now, I'm not forgetting about this top kit line. Just going to keep plopping them in, see if we can draw them back in. See the indication straight away then. Like a fish had out in the drop, but what you want is these fish to turn up. Liner then. Now, just got to not make decisions too quick. I speak to a few people in the matches and they feel like, oh, I missed a bite, Just let your peg develop and let the fish tell you where they are and what's going on in your peg. Now, I've had 2 liners since I've been there. Now, this could be the case again, which is what we had before, like the smaller fish in the area, say some smaller F1s or stuff like that. But ideally we want to catch some carp, just because late on in the match they're a lot bigger. You can put, if you catch a few on the bounce, you can put a lot of weight in there. You need less fish for more weight, so it's a weird sign then, but you need less fish for more weight, so that's when you want to be targeting carp later on in the matches. To catch, like, if you catch 10 carp, you got £60 now. To catch 10 F1s, you got between 15 and £30, and that's half the amount of size. And to be fair, it'd probably take you just as long unless it was really solid shallow. But this time of year, when it's getting a bit cooler, these edges can pull you out of rubbish. Really, just pull you from 0 to a hero. Now I said a liner then, and it made me think like there is a carp, that is a carp liner. Just move my float slightly. It's not dip my float, it's just moved the rig. It's like the carp's come through my rig and moved it. Now you're going to get a lot of indications with these deep edges. There's a lot of water which is beneath your float and your upbait in between. So you've just got to be mindful. If you've never really done it before, it takes a bit of getting used to. It's not the easiest thing when you fish like 18 inch, 12 inch with ground bait maggots or micros and corn, where you can see the swirls. It's quite exciting. This is you've got to manage it from reading your float. You can't see any of the fish that are in your peg. You've just got to hope that you're sitting on the area where they are, and then once you drop it in and you start feeding, you can work from that. Now, but a few occasions there and no bites, so what I'm going to do is, and refeed again, just give it 30 seconds, don't do it too fast, don't do it too, try and be all over the shop, just sit there nice and patient. But I'm going to refeed again and start again. And then I remember when I'm refeeding, I'm just going to chuck a few pellets on the top kit, really gather some bait in that area. But we're only 2 or 3 bites away from our target. We're 1 bite away from our £20 target, and probably 2 or 3, 4 bites away from the £30 target, which I said was a realistic target, to be honest, the way the lake's fishing. So don't give it too long, just spin round. Before you feed it up, just plop it in short. the odd carp getting caught, but I still think 20 to 30 pound would be about right. Ooh, straight away that was a good sign. Shame I missed it, but no, it's right over my feed. That was, as soon as my rig at the bottom, it's missed a bite off a fish. It was a nice solid bite as well. So now, just because I had that bite relatively quick, and I will refeed relatively quick again if I don't get a sign within the next minute or so, it's because I just feel you need to just set your trap. Now, I don't know in my head how many pellets are left on the bottom. Some indications there that there could be nothing left now, and I'm just sitting there in the middle of the lake on the bottom just with my single pellet. Now, if I come back and reset my trap, I know I'm fishing over my bait, so if a fish comes in to feed and it's on my pile of bait, I know I'm going to hook it if it comes to feed in that area. There now, I'm just guessing. I don't know what's left, how many pellets are there. There could be 100, there could be none. But if I set my little trap again, and I can then reset it, and I know in my head I'm fishing on my bait, and if a fish comes in, that's where it's going to come to my bait. So I'm going to refit that quickly. Now I've redone it, just repeat the process again. Now, one thing it could be, which I hope it isn't, but it could be that when I'm feeding my bait then, I fed my bait in a little column, and as my rigs come down, as the bait's falling at the same time, and say an F1 has intercepted that, like mid-depth, and just caused me to have that liner. That's what you can find, these F1s, they're crafty little things, they'll sit off the bottom, they cause you little problems like this, where you think there's a few carp in your peg, but there might not be. You just got to be a bit wary of it. Like I say, it's just all reading your bristle. With these deep edges, you can't really see what's going off. You can't tell whether there's like 10 carp tailing up there now or 30 F1s in your peg. You can't see them because it's so deep. You can't see any signs, tail patterns. You can just get bites, and that's what you got to work your line off. But I'm just going to trickle that top bit because I feel like that's going to be my best line, to be honest. Now I'm going to go back to. I've just missed a bite then, but I'm going to go back in a minute, just fishing that 8mm. Because when we fished the 8mm, we got a lot less bites or indications. We got hardly any. Now it's not resulting in any fish down there. So what I want to do is I want to get as little liners as I can to bites ratio sort of thing. So I just want to get. All I want to do in my head is plop my bait in, pop my bait in, put my rig straight over the top, not get any signs, any indications, and it go under. That's what in the ideal world, when it's right, that's what goes on. Now if you're going in and missing bites or missing a few bites and getting different things and you're still feeding a little bit more, a little bit less, trying to work it out, the only way I think that I'm going to catch properly is just sit there with a bit bigger upbait on and just pray that some carp come into the peg. Now, if I think I'm right, then with a bigger hook bait you're going to get less indications, because them F1s, if that's what's causing the problem, or silverfish, can't really suck that in with ease. So what you want to do is lay it before, just come back and go again. Just put it in there. Make sure I feed that top kit line. And just slip an 8mm on. refeed again. Keep plopping them top kit line. Well, hopefully when I feed this now, because I've got a little bit bigger hook bait on, I'm going to get a lot less indications and hopefully a bite. Now what you might find is when you're fishing now, the way I'm thinking now is a lot, if I'm looking up the bank, the people that have caught a few fish, the ones that are doing better than the others are the ones that are fishing on that top kit line now. Now, you have them days where there's carp and only come certain areas. You might ask why have I not fished tight on the edge? Well, I prefer to fish on the pallet where it's nice and clean bottom where the keep nets go. Rocky bottom, so when the carp come in, you've got somewhere to go. But like, I feel you've got a bigger area of water for the fish to come in. So you've got a bigger area of water, you can hold a lot more fish that feel safe under a pallet. They'll hide under there, they'll sneak out, they'll pick your bait up a lot with ease. You can get a lot of fish there. With tight in the edges, you need the fish to come in all the time, and some days they might not want to come tight to the bank. They might just only literally want to come up that shelf or not even come up it at all. Now these are the days which you've got to be mindful that the fish might not want to be in the shallowest water. They might want to sit just down that shelf where they're happy. They dictate where you fish, you don't dictate where you want to fish to them. If you fish in the edge all day, tight in the bank, and they don't want to come there, you will not catch them. So what I'm thinking now is, just because I've had a few, wouldn't say I wouldn't have had any bites. I had one bite which I missed, but I think that was a small fish, to be fair. What I want to do, just refeed again, and then I'll have a little drop on that top kit line again, because that seems to be the area where the fish are. Now you could be amazed, like when you refeed, I've just sat there thinking there's not a fish in my paint, but when you refeed, start again, you can, the amount of times you get a bite and hook a fish is ridiculous. See, I've had a bite then. Just think they're a bit smaller than what I ideally want to catch. Don't want to say they're nuisance fish, but they're not fish which you're looking to catch, and in the last hour you're not looking to catch these fish, you're looking to catch them bigger stamp fish. Like I say, it's really weird not knowing the times. I just feel like I don't know what's going on. But with not knowing the times though, I don't want to be too impatient on these lines, because it may only be half an hour into the match now. I'm not too sure, to be honest. but you don't want to be too impatient. You want to let your peg develop. Now, you've seen before when I caught them 2 carp on a top kit, it was very quick how I caught them and then they were gone. Now this might be the same case, in that down this edge you might catch 2 or 3 fish dead quick and then they're gone, but that could be easily 15-20 pounds. So you don't want to be too fast to move. You just want to be nice and patient. Don't be too reluctant to change things too quickly. That doesn't feel like, to be honest. That feels foul up, but I'm going to say it's an F1 foul up. I wouldn't be surprised if it fell off, but take your time, they're all count if you get them in. Is it? Well, that's going to be the last fish. Better take the time with this one. Chris next to me telling me the time, so to be fair, the match has gone a lot quicker than I thought, to be honest. I know it's in the mouth. There we go. Is it 5? Yeah. So, there we are. We're going to have a little weigh in now and then I'll get back, see if I've managed to beat him, but I don't think I will have. Right, so we've just weighed in the hour challenge with the 3 nutcases I've had today on my group day, and I've had 22 pounds, so set in between that. To be fair, not having a watch has probably cost me, because I would have spent a lot more time on the short pole. So if you don't use the time and you're in your match, it just shows how important, when such a little thing like your watch or the time is taken away from you, how much time you can actually waste by an area of the peg which you've not getting bites on. Now, if I was to redo that hour again, and this is the little lesson which you're going to learn from it and everyone's seen it, that I would have spent a lot more time on the top kit line, because that seemed to be where everyone's caught. Craig next to me, he's had 26 pounds now, so he's done brilliantly, and it's really nice to see that the lads have come on the coaching day and they've got a lot better, and they're catching these big fish short poles. It's nice to see. He's bashed me up, and I'll be after him on the Fishermanias, because he said he's doing a few next year, but I made up for him, to be fair. But looking back on my match, that simple thing of time being taken away from me has literally just cost me a different area of the match. So you imagine if you're fishing a match and you don't watch the time a lot, you don't have a little watch or your phone or a little stopwatch on the side, but you can't see the time. So a big important feature of your fishing is to know. Looking back, should have fished a lot more time on the short pole. I might have snuck 30 pounds, but it's been hard today. So that last hour, 22 pounds, would have been ideal in the situation in the match. I don't think it'd have been a big weight today. It's getting a lot cooler now, and the fish are not being as active, and it's a bit harder to catch them. But I made up. A nice little day we've had today. A great laugh with them bunch of lads that's just terrorised me all day. But we've had a good day, and I hope you enjoy this video. You learnt a few things from it: how to time your match, what I'm looking for, what pellet size, try and get a bite, try and maximise, how to cut bites out to get, how to cut missed bites out to try and get a proper bite, and stuff like that. I hope you've enjoyed it. So if you have liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you on the bank soon. Cheers.